Saturn, as we say in French.
We're good.
Volksday, hi.
We're back.
Giorgio,
we're back.
So, Napoleon had 100 days after Elba. It was his second term.
This is true.
Trump, in his second term now, is after 100 days. How would you say he's been doing? How would you appreciate his work so far?
I think that he has solidified his case to be the second greatest American president in history, after Andrew Jackson.
Okay.
You know, the one thing that the God Emperor 2.0, as we usually prefer to refer to him as, the one thing he hasn't done yet is directly take on the Federal Reserve. He hasn't, and whether he will or not, I don't know. Now, to be fair, Trump is facing a challenge that is significantly greater than Andrew Jackson ever faced.
Yeah.
The permeation of the deep state through every aspect of society is much worse than it was back in the early 1800s. And so when you look at what Trump is dealing with, the challenge is just immense. Now, I'm very pleased with a lot of what he's done. My only concern is that it's far from over. It's far from conclusive. And a lot of the things that he has, that people are talking about, are not things he's actually done. They're talking about rhetoric, things that he has said he's going to do.
It seems that, first of all, he's doing much better than his first term, for
Yes.
sure, because he is more confident. He has much better team, much more loyal.
Yes.
However, isn't there the risk that it's too little too late?
Absolutely. It's not a given that the situation that the United States is in is salvageable. I mean, it's fairly well known that back in 2004, identified 2033 as the time when the U.S. political entity would begin to break apart. People have said, well, do you feel differently? Do you feel that Trump has particularly changed the timeline? And I said, no. I mean, he hasn't fixed anything yet. He's trying to fix something. The very encouraging thing is that for the first time in my lifetime, we're actually seeing a president of the United States attempting to fix the challenges that face the American nation. We've never had that before. Reagan didn't try to do it. Reagan actually made things worse. Bush, he's a creature of the deep state. Of course, didn't Clinton, Obama, and going back even before that, we'd have to go back all the way to JFK in order to have a president who might even qualify as someone who was trying to serve American interests.
Yes.
And whether that's what got him killed or not, I don't know. I'm not a... I'm not...
Could be many things together, in fact.
Yeah. I'm not... I mean, I pay so little attention to the JFK thing that I didn't even pay much attention to the release of the supposed files and whatever. I just, me, I just assume that whatever the official story is the one thing we can be absolutely certain did not happen.
Sure.
Beyond that, I don't know. But it's there's reason for optimism because at least we have someone who's trying to do something.
So if you take step by step some of the big items, let's first talk about domestic policies. We've seen at least an attempt to deport the first batch of many criminal, illegal migrants. Has been a bit blocked by judges in some cases. But most importantly, probably is this DOGE approach, where almost $1 trillion has been saved, at least cut from the spending, which is, by the way, I think a lot of analysts don't mention that, but that cut in spending, which is really welcome, of course, because it was corrupt money, and we've probably been both targets of people who receive money from those programs,
Correct.
for sure. Wikipedia, especially, and others. That money not flowing in the economy is a significant. It's already 3% of the GDP. Right. So that's already 3% that is removed from an economy which is not super healthy. So here's a question, and then you can comment on the domestic policies. Isn't he trying to, by the way, create a recession on purpose?
I don't know that I would go as far as some do, where they say that that's part of the actual plan to basically rob from the rich to repair the middle class. There is a argument for that, and I'm familiar with it, but I haven't spent enough time digging into it to have a strong opinion or one way or the other. What I will say is that he's not concerned about crashing the economy. He expects the economy to initially crash in response to the shock of ending the current system. But, I mean, this is the example that they always give about, surgery for cancer. Yeah, if you've got a person who's a cancer patient and you give them a lot of, sweet, sugary food and alcohol and that sort of stuff, they will feel better than if you start cutting into them.
Yeah.
But the surgery is necessary if you want the patient to have a chance at survival.
Yeah.
And given the extremes of the debt situation that the United States and frankly the world is in, that correction is coming. Either the longer we wait before the crash happens, the worse it's going to be. And so they've been kicking the can down the road since 2002.
Yeah, at least.
And then in 2008 was when they should have
cleaned it up,
accepted the pain, but they wouldn't. And so now those long delayed chickens are coming home to roost in 2025.
What else would you say has been impressive or not in domestic policies so far?
Well, I think that the most impressive thing is the way that he has stayed inside the OODA loop of the media. There's effectively no opposition to Trump. There's a lot of instinctive opposition. Certainly there's no shortage of people shrieking and crying and freaking out.
And painting swastikas on Teslas.
Yes.
That's weird.
That's going to change things.
And with everyone with the picture taken by the car, which is amazing.
But what we see with that sort of thing is the absolute terrible state of the left. Like, the only reason that the left had any power was because it was being fed trillions of stolen dollars from the federal government. Yeah. That they're not as numerous as everybody believed. They're not as powerful. They're not even as influential. Yeah. It's all just corruption. Oh, well, we managed to take advantage of government corruption. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, that is an accomplishment of sorts, but it's not one that you can really depend upon for long, because sooner or later you're going to crash the government that way.
Yes. The military has not been cut. The CIA and FBI have not been reformed yet, but there's new people in charge of those.
Yes.
What do you see coming on those fronts?
I'm not sure, because it's clear that they have enough sense to try to get out of the Russian, Ukrainian, European situation. I don't know, and I don't see that they have the sense to either fully understand the weakness of the USA vis-a-vis China, especially, and especially and particularly in Asia.
Yes.
The U.S. has no more ability to wage war with China in the Pacific region than it does to engage in a land war with Russia. It's not possible with the, I've read the various war games and that sort of thing, and
they lose all the time.
No. For example, in what was it? I think it was 21 out of 27 runs of a particular war game involving China or involving Taiwan,
Yes.
The U.S. actually was calculated to have won.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was that most of the forces of both sides were destroyed, and China's industrial capacity allows them to make ships at 230% of the USA.
Yeah.
So basically what that really means is the US can win maybe one battle, and then it loses the war.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and
that's assuming the war games are not biased, because that's very common.
That's the best case scenario.
Yes.
The absolute best case scenario is you win one battle, and then you lose. And so, you know, they're hoping, apparently, I don't know what, I have no idea what the strategy is supposed to be. I mean, presumably it's, well, we're going to deter China by making it clear that we're going to make it painful for them and they'll lose a battle first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyone, you know, this is a culture that grew up on Sun Tzu, that produced Sun Tzu.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they're capable of figuring out that, well, then if they lose the first battle, they'll just have to fight a second one.
Yeah, exactly.
But they will win.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's just, the thing that's kind of depressing about it as a, you know, as an older adult, now being able to look back more, and then is that just the absolute unnecessary nature of these wars.
Yeah.
There was no reason whatsoever to fight the war in Ukraine.
Well, they're necessary for the stock, for the stock of the companies of manufacturing weapons and supplies and logistics.
Maybe, I mean, in the short term, I suppose, but you know, is there really going to be a huge market for American weapons after the world has just seen how completely useless they've been in Ukraine?
Yeah. Well,
that's not a great advertisement.
No. Well, Ukraine has not showed much success so far.
No, and more than Ukraine, I mean, it's the German missile systems.
Does it work?
It's, you know, they work, but for about, you know, a week before then it gets jammed.
Yeah,
and becomes
exactly.
useless. And you know, you look at and the thing is that the way that the war has changed over there means that things are even more in China's favor now.
Yes.
Because the way that drones have replaced artillery means that in terms of what causes the most casualties on the battlefield. So now it's whoever can make the most drones wins. I mean, what's the one rule of warfare? Be there first with the most.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that it's drones, who's going to be there with the most drones? We already know.
Yeah.
And so that's, and of course, that's why China has been focusing on making these basically, you know, mass drone delivery systems, whether it's boats, you know, flight or, you know, unpiloted aerial vehicles. They're all designed to get large quantity of drones somewhere quickly. And so be there first with the most. You know, it's a situation that I don't think that most of the American military planners are even paying attention to.
Yeah.
And they should. They must.
Of course. So are they going to take Iran first? And to take Iran first, they need to take Yemen first, which seems to be laborious at best.
Again, I don't really understand what they think the plan is going to be, especially if some of the stuff that we've heard about Iran successfully deterring Israel a few months ago is correct. Is it just a big bluff? Is it, you know, are they seriously going to go toe-to-toe with Iran? You know, if they do, we may be approaching America's Syracuse expedition moment. You know, I mean, I've expected the U.S. to get to that point, but I always assumed it was going to be over China, or it was going to be with China, over Taiwan. You know, China sinks 3 to 5 American aircraft carriers, and the U.S. and the world finally understand Pax Americana is over.
Yes.
But maybe, I mean, how ironic would it be if it turned out to be some ragtag group in Yemen that, makes that happen first.
Well, certainly, even either on the Russian or even Chinese point of view, having America fight Iran and being exhausted by doing that is actually a plus.
Oh, definitely. That's why I think that I think Putin and even more Xi are quietly in the process of applying Napoleon's maximum of not interrupting your enemy when he's making a mistake. Russia could come out and be a lot more vocally opposed to them than they have been. China hasn't said anything. I mean, China obviously doesn't usually say much. I do follow their foreign ministry, and I'm telling you, it's high comedy. I mean, I honestly think that the Chinese foreign diplomats are like masterful comedians because they will come out and everyone knows you're going to be asked about this new event that's taken place in, Ukraine or in Yemen or wherever else. And they'll always come out with the most banal, innocuous, China hopes that diplomacy will prevail. It's really quite funny.
So those who hope that diplomacy will not prevail seem to be Europeans.
Correct.
Now
which I also don't. I mean, I kind of understand. Like, I would have thought that the European leaders. I mean, yes, I know they're deep state puppets.
Exactly.
I know they're evil, degenerate Satanists. I know that intellectually. I still find it hard to believe that they legitimately want to get scads of their own people killed. And it's just so hard. It's hard to accept.
So here's the thing. If they are puppets from the deep state, whatever they do is that they want them to do it.
Correct.
So when they seem like to be now upset and angry and opposing the US and saying if the US is not going to support continuation of war in Ukraine, we will do it on our own. It means, could it be that they say, okay, go Europe, let's have Europe suicide itself by fighting Russia, while we, the US, well, the deep state that manages the US, and where it does something else. And where is Trump standing on that? Because besides wanting to have Gaza Beach as the new Miami Beach coast in the future, which seems to be a far-fetched plan, but who knows? His attitude towards the very bizarre ongoing war between Israel and its neighbors is very difficult to understand. If it's play, if it's serious, if it's in this weird multidimensional chess, who's doing what in your opinion? Who's actually wanting what?
Well, the European Union is the last redoubt of the deep state, as far as we can tell. And all of this is just, based on observation. We could be wrong. I could be wrong. But it's pretty clear that China kicked out the deep state when Xi took over.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Yeah. And then Russia did the same thing when Putin took over. And now Trump is attempting to do the same in the USA. And so that leaves the second tier, deep state puppets in Europe who were never significant.
No.
All they were was order takers.
And they're pretty harmless.
Generally, yeah. I mean, they no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, they can do child trafficking, but they're not harmful in terms of military action, as we've seen.
No, first of all, they don't have much in the way of forces.
Yeah.
Secondly, the leadership, I mean, they're, at least half the European leadership is more suited to doing TikTok dances than actually coming up with a a campaign to
Barbarossa 2.0.
Well, no, they wouldn't know how to take a hill.
Yeah.
Forget
for sure.
You know, I mean, they have no training, they have no background, they've never paid any attention to it whatsoever. That's why it's so crazy when you see them making these statements.
But even those who do, like people who are head of NATO, head of the military of Germany or France, or even them look like they wouldn't know how to take a hill.
Well, at least those guys, it's interesting because when you listen to the European military leaders talk, they all quite clearly understand there's nothing they can do. I mean, they'll even come out every now and then and say, well, if the U.S. pulls out, then we can't do anything, you know, and it's obvious they can't.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, the entire size of if Britain sent every single British soldier that it has, including all of the logistics, all of the, you know, not just the tip of the spear, but if they sent the entire spear, it would last a month at most, you know. Yeah. I mean, in Ukraine, I mean, people don't realize how the scale of the warfare there is immense.
Yes.
And I mean,
very intense.
It's not World War II level size, but it's like one level below that.
Yeah, well, for sure, at least 1 million Ukrainian dead. That's what the German army lost in the summer of 1944. Operations, okay, on the largest front, sure, but it's pretty intense. You're right. It's not World War II, but almost.
Right, and that's not what, you know, the U.S. still thinks in terms of sending in 2 squads of Navy SEALs as being warfare. And that's not applicable anymore. And you know, the U.S. as a country is not the U.S. It literally is, you know, 50% foreigners.
Foreigners.
And so,
so 5% unicorns with blue hair, at least.
But the thing is that even the Americans are less prepared,
of course,
physically, mentally, in every single way.
Yeah.
And half the people there are not even Americans.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to get any better military performance out of Indians in the U.S. than you get out of Indians in India.
I thought you were saying Indians in any business. but yeah, of course not.
Yeah. So, I mean, Indians as in the sense of...
In any software industry.
Yeah, I'm not referring to the type of Indians like myself who do have a long and noble warrior tradition.
Yeah.
Just
the other Indians.
Just have no technology or numbers or education.
Well, you got casinos.
Yes, we do. Yes,
so,
we do. Yeah.
Not so bad.
I mean, frankly, I think we collectively came out of it better than the current set of Americans are likely to come out of it if things don't go the right way.
Yeah.
So let me check that
real quick. So to switch gears and to finish off, today, a few days ago, there's been major announcements on tariffs. How do you see this new policy?
Well, I see it mostly as a negotiating tool.
Mm-hmm.
I was personally shocked when I saw that Switzerland was getting hit with a 31% tariff. And the reason it was so shocking is that Switzerland doesn't have any tariffs on manufactured goods. So it's like, well, wait, what's going on here? And, you know, this is particularly troublesome to me because, you know, we just set up a bindery in Switzerland to make books, a lot of which go to the United States. And, but then when I realized that it was not actually a reciprocal tariff, basically what they did is just calculate what the balance of trade was and run a number off that. This is actually what Trump's doing is very normal for him. He likes to slap the other party in the face with an outrageous demand.
Yes.
And then the party is usually happy to settle for something that it normally would have said no to before. So I think at the end of the day, what Trump really wants is he wants a 10% tariff on everything coming into the U.S. and no tariffs on U.S. exports.
Which is, to remind, because a lot of people could get confused, when you put a tariff, it has two effects. One is to increase the cost of importing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, who pays the tariff is the buyer, not the seller,
right.
which of course will sell less because its prices in fine are more expensive. And the second effect, which is probably what is really wanted, is that it incentivizes local production of that same good.
Exactly. And so... so
it's a sort of protectionism.
It is protectionism.
Exactly.
And he's correctly trying to protect the American economy because the American economy has been getting financially raped for the last 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it was really tragic just last week. The last British steel foundry shut down.
Yes.
You know, Britain used to be the
steel maker with Germany and Pittsburgh in America.
Yeah, and so now it doesn't exist anymore. And so you know, Trump is doing the right thing, like we said at the beginning. He's doing the right thing. He's working towards the right objectives. Is he doing enough? Is he going to be successful? That's the question. Yeah. And I hope so, but you know.
Yeah, we have to hope the best for Americans, for sure, for everyone.
Yeah, because if he's successful there, what's going to happen is that Europe will, you know, the current European retarderati that run everything, you know, they were always second tier anyhow. They never ran anything as it was. They're not capable of it. And so the more successful Trump is, the faster the European nations are also going to be free of their corrupt leadership.
One last question. Gold has just hit a few days ago its highest price ever. Mm-hmm. What is that a sign of?
Well, it's a sign of troubled times and a retreat, you know, for people that don't want to invest in debt. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, the two things that are always worth something are gold and land.
Buy gold, still can buy it. Vox Day, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.